Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer Dolphins fans' questions, and we have a great episode of the podcast for you here today. One of the awesome and best moments the Dolphins have had in a long time. This is only their second time beating the New England Patriots in New England in over 10 years now. Which is awesome. This was a huge divisional win for this season. Obviously, the expectations going into the year, nobody believed we could do it, and it just feels so good. And Brian Flores is the first coach to have the record that he has going to Gillette Stadium, and I want to know how long. I want to know, comparing his record, especially in the first few years as a Dolphins coach, against the Patriots in Gillette Stadium or in New England in general. It's got to be up there. Brian Flores continues to be special and continues to prove why he's one of the best head coaches in the National Football League. So we'll get into that right after the news you need to know about. So this first news story, and I can't wait to talk about this game because it's just a great day to be a Dolphins fan. But this first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Austin Jackson was elevated from the COVID-19 list. I've only watched the game one time. I'm gonna do another video, kind of breaking down this game a little bit more, because there's so many things that I probably missed only watching the game one time, and I can't remember the exact offensive line that we used. I know Eichenberg played left tackle, and I'm pretty sure Austin Jackson didn't play at all in this game. I could be wrong, and I would like to go back and look at it, but I'm pretty sure he didn't, even though he was elevated from the COVID list. It does make sense that he didn't play because obviously he didn't practice all week for the most part, so I would have a hard time believing he would play. So everybody's going to keep their eye on that situation. I'm sure he'll be fine for the rest of the year and continue to hopefully get better. The other news story, which is just, I don't even really want to talk about it, but it is interesting, I guess. There was a report that came from Pro Football Rumors, and NBC Sports before Sunday's slate of games, where and this is something that people have been speculating about, and I think this is more speculation than actual journalism, but it's being treated like it's actual journalism, so I will talk about it. That if things change with the Texans, that Deshaun Watson could be traded at the trade deadline. The Dolphins could reportedly be still interested at that time, but I don't believe it. I think I'm pretty much done with the Deshaun Watson rumors as a Dolphins fan, and I think most Dolphins fans are done with those rumors, and I don't want to talk about it after such a great day like today. So yeah, that was it for your news, ladies and gentlemen. Not a lot to talk about news-wise, but obviously there's a ton of news to talk about with this game. So let's get into the other news story of the day. The Dolphins go to Gillette Stadium and get a victory by 1 point, 17-16, in a bloodbath of a game. An old school showdown of just defense, and it was great. It really, really was. And there's a lot of things to break down, but let's start with the offense. And I kind of just want to make observations. I don't want to do like a massive breakdown. I kind of just want to keep it to some of the things that really stood out to me on first blush. So let's start with the offensive side of the football. And obviously, I think we should probably start. This is a tough one. We'll start with the run game, because I think that was a big question mark going into the year. And would it improve? And it had its moments. Now, if you look at the numbers, Myles Gaskin had 9 carries for 49 yards, but he averaged 5 yards a carry. Malcolm Brown only had 5 carries for 16 yards, which is a little misleading. He had pretty much, for the most part, positive gains. I think these numbers are a little bit misleading. We didn't run the ball that much. Like I said, Gaskin only had 9 carries. Brown had 5. Ahmed had 3. So we didn't really run it that much. Brissett almost had just as many carries as Ahmed did. So that wasn't really a focus of the game, despite it being a very defensive-heavy game. And that's where I give Tua a lot of credit for not turning the football over for the most part, the entire game. I thought he did a great job of really making sure the game, and I think, both sides really had to do that. Um, and the team that turned the ball over the most lost. So, and I think we all kind of knew that going in. Is this, we definitely had to take care of the ball. These are the two, both of the New England defense and obviously our defense, the Dolphins defense, are two of the top 5 defenses in the league, and they will be the entire year. And I do think it is foolish and stupid to think that, I've seen some Dolphins fans say, oh, this wasn't, it was obviously a great victory, but there were some people had some negative things to say. And I'm like, first of all, no one's going to be perfect, number one. Number two, it is perfect as it's going to get a victory in Gillette Stadium. I want to make that very clear before we, at least that's how I feel about it. I don't care how we win that game. It's so hard to go up there and win, as we know as Dolphins fans. If you've been watching football for even the last 10 years as a Dolphins fan, you know that. You know how hard it is to go up to Gillette Stadium and win. And the fact that they were able to do it with a good New England team, and it's going to be a fierce battle all year in this division, which is a huge step forward to making the playoffs and winning this division, is getting this win. I know it's early, but this is a huge divisional game. To win on the road against one of the best teams in the division is as perfect as I could ever ask for. And I think both sides of the ball did some really, really good things. So continuing on with the offense, it doesn't seem like we were able to run the football that much, even though we didn't run it that much, which is obviously very interesting. Obviously, Tua had a nice little touchdown run to start the game off with our first drive of the game. But I felt like we did a great job of closing the game out and really running it when we needed to, I think is the best thing I can say. I thought Michael Dieter had a good game. He kind of got banged up in this game. Hopefully he's okay. I thought the interior of the offensive line played pretty good. And like I said, it wasn't a ton of yards, but when we needed to run it, we did. And we accomplished what we needed to do. And especially trying, clocking out New England to win this game, I thought was a huge, huge, huge dub. Even though, obviously, one of the biggest plays on that drive was a slant route to Devontae Parker. But even on the goal line when we needed to run the ball, which has been a problem in the past, we brought up some Wildcat. I love the design runs. Pretty much every single one of them were off RPOs, which I love. I think that's going to really help out the run game for the rest of the year, just to give the defense multiple looks. And even have things that where Tua can take it and run it himself, I think is pretty awesome as well. So a lot of the design runs in this game were pretty awesome. And one thing I want to comment on is just watching the offense in a regular season game. It's much different than last year. We've had some comments where Myles Gaskin said it's a lot different than last year. Matt Collins said it's kind of similar. It's not similar at all. It's very different, which I like. Obviously, I think we all like. And I'm very excited to see where this goes and where it grows. But like I said, I think the biggest thing about the run game, and especially in this game, is when we needed to run it, we were able to, and we were able to get it done when we needed it the most. So the run game, we didn't run it that much, but like I said, when we needed it, we got it. The passing game, and obviously Tua, I think the thing that jumped out to me the most, just to start with the negative, is he struggled to throw outside of the numbers a lot in this game, which is really weird. He had a couple times, I think two things that stand out to me is obviously the drop. It was still a drop, but it was not a great throw by Tua, where Jalen would have had a pretty big gain on third down, which that was a huge play of the game. I mean, anytime you get, an opportunity to move the chains on third down against that defense, you have to make those plays, and obviously we weren't able to make them. Jalen could have caught it, but it wasn't a good throw by Tua. There was another throw on second down, I believe, where he had Gaskin matched up with Kyle Van Noy. If it was a better throw, it would have been easy first down, and maybe even a little bit more than that. So I don't know really what was going on with that. It was very odd. I've heard some people bring this up with Tua, but I've never noticed it. Even in preseason, he was able to throw outside the numbers pretty well. And I don't know what was going on in this game. Maybe he was, I don't know, maybe just a couple misfires there. He made some other throws outside the numbers where it kind of got better as the game went on. But he just had a couple that I was like, it's just a little weird that, he's obviously a very accurate quarterback, especially in the middle of the field. I mean, some of those throws that he had to Devontae Parker on the slants were perfect. But I thought that was a little interesting that he did have a couple outside throws that kind of got away from him a little bit. But other than that, too, I thought played amazing, especially in a game where, and again, people have to understand this is one of the best defenses in the league. And one of the best coaches in the league. So you're not gonna fire on all cylinders and have 50 points. I mean, that's just not gonna happen. New England is a lot better than they were a year ago on defense and offense. You know, they got Hightower back. You know, they've added a lot of good pieces to that front seven that they didn't have a year ago. So they're a better defense. So I think, you know, I wouldn't look at the score and be like, oh, this is what the Dolphins' offense is going to be the rest of the year. I don't think that at all. And if you look at Tua's numbers, he was 16 for 27 for 202, a touchdown and an interception. The interception, not mad at it. He was trying to make a play, and that happens. I would rather that happen on third. It wasn't even a big, huge turnover where it hurt us too much. When you have a good defense, I feel like you can take those risks a lot of the time. And I'm all for making a play on third and long like that, in my opinion. And that pick wasn't the worst of picks in the world. And I'm not gonna hold against him too much. But other than that, I thought he played well. He made a lot of nice throws, made some super accurate down the field throws. Obviously, the one to Devontae Parker, the one to Jalen Waddle, which was beautiful. I thought Tua made enough plays in this game, and he took advantage of what, other than the throw to Waddle, other than that, he took advantage of what the defense could give him. And again, against one of the best secondaries in the National Football League, I thought Tua did very, very well. And he looks better too than he did a year ago. I just think he's more confident, he's stronger, he's quicker. And I think his arm is stronger than it was a year ago. He just looks better. And in terms of the things that we kind of missed on offense that I thought was interesting, Albert Wilson, who I expected to show up a little bit more than he did, he had that one play where Jalen Mills barely got a hand on it, and would have been a touchdown. It was a great defensive play by him. But other than that, Albert Wilson was pretty much non-existent. And he had and he missed some time going into the season, so I think that contributed to it. But him and Tua had a great rapport in the offseason, so I would continue to look for that to kind of come back as the season goes on, because I still think Albert Wilson's going to have a good year. But he didn't even have a reception this game, so that kind of surprised me a little bit. Jalen Waddle is going to be a superstar. I really do believe that. He's going to be a great receiver for this football team for a long time, and he showed why in this game. I thought he was going to be a little bit more involved in the run game than he was. He was used as a decoy a lot. I would look for him to be even more involved in that as things go along. And Devontae Parker, who had a fantastic game. He always seems to have a fantastic game against New England. And he had another fantastic game in this game where him and Tua kind of connected on a few balls. And, that was kind of a concern going into the season, where people were concerned that those two wouldn't have that much chemistry because they didn't get to throw to each other that much during training camp, and they looked just fine. And again, even last year, people kind of criticized that connection where it's like, oh, well, Fitz has a bit. Well, in this game, those two had great chemistry. And Tua made some some very great plays, especially the throw to the sideline where he posts up J.C. Jackson and stuff like that. It's just those were some tough throws, and obviously a very tough catch for DP to make. And he came up in a lot of clutch situations in this game. So Devontae had a great game. But I think one thing I want to say about this offense, I would say it just because we scored 17 and you didn't see those guys that we saw in the offseason, I really do feel like this offense is going to have a big year. It just is. This defense is good. I just want to make that clear. I think Tua looked good. And I think this offense is only going to get better, and it's going to be a lot better than it was a year ago. I still really do believe that. So I think you can just kind of chalk this game up to, this was just a great defense that we went up against, and a great coach, obviously, in Bill Belichick. So I don't think this is going to be a problem going forward. I think this offense is going to roll for most of the year, for sure. And another guy to mention that didn't really get going in this game is Mike Gesicki. They're a good defense. And they did a good job of taking some of those people away. So that's not going to happen every week. Gesicki, Wilson, and all of those guys are in Waddle and Full. The offense is going to be all really good this year. So like I said, I wouldn't take this game as a negative. We had to do it. I mean, this is just how this game it was going to be. It was going to be a tough game to win, and we won it. And I think that's the most important thing. But again, I don't think this is going to be the story of this offense. I think this offense is going to only get better and be better as the year goes on. And not just better, but I think it's going to be really, really good. I'm very excited to see what they do in the coming weeks for sure. So let's go to the defensive side. I'm trying to. Oh, before we move on to the defensive side of the ball, we have to hit on the pass protection. I thought it was pretty okay. I don't think it was bad at all. Eichenberg had some bad moments. I think he had a hold. He let up one sack to Josh Uche, I believe, and he had a hold on Matthew Judon. It wasn't that bad though, for the most part. So it wasn't bad. I thought the offensive line, I would give them like a B. I don't think it was fantastic or anything like that, but I thought it was pretty good, and I don't think it was bad at all. And for the most part, it was pretty good. So let's go to the defensive side of the football. And again, I've only watched the game once, so if I go back and I'm excited to kind of go back and look at this game and analyze it even more. But let's go to the defensive side of the ball and some of the things that I noticed, some of the observations that I had. I think the first thing is this defense is going to be fantastic, and the pass rush is a lot better. And I think something that people might not notice is Jalen Phillips. He actually had a pretty decent game in this game, and he played a lot more than I thought he did. And I think overall this pass rush is going to be a lot better than it was a year ago. That's one of the first things that I noticed, because this offensive line for the Patriots is one of the better ones in the league. And we were able to get consistent pressure without blitzing on Mac Jones. And Mac did a great job of getting rid of the football. But for the most part, we did a good job of getting pressure up the middle, on the edge. Ogba had a really nice game. He had a tip, he had a sack, he had a few pressures. So I think that's one of the things that jumped out to me the most was this pass rush is going to be better. And the secondary is still the secondary. They have so many playmakers on this team that can make plays on defense, and they're just so fun to watch. For the most part, from the positives for the defense, I would say that it's pretty much, I think it's the same as it was last year and better. I think they've improved in a lot of areas, especially with the pass rush. You would expect our third down percentages and our third down defense to be a little bit better than it was in this game. But our red zone defense was amazing in this game. You could not ask for better. And again, when we needed to stop the run, we did. I think that's another thing that the defense did a really good job of is, number one, they didn't let the same run beat them. New England ran that toss play a few times, especially in that first half, and they continued to run it in the second half. And as they kept running it, we got better and pretty much stuffed it for the rest of the game. So, if you look at the numbers, Damian Harris had 23 carries for 100 yards with a 4-yard average. But like I said, I really did feel like especially in the red zone, when we needed to stop the run, we did. And we were disciplined on play action for the most part too. Mac really, for the most part, had to go to his third, fourth option off of some of those plays. So we were pretty disciplined the entire day. Our tackling was amazing. I think some of the negatives, though, that I didn't like was our zone coverage looks were pretty bad. Now, Josh McDaniels in New England have a million thousand different ways to pick you apart in zone coverage. And this is something that I noticed in preseason that kind of reared its ugly head in this game is our cover 3 in any zone that we play. What hasn't been the best, I think some of the bigger plays and some of the dink and dunks that they were able to get was off of that. And that's how you beat zone is the dink and dunks. It's not so much that what I'm worried about, because I thought we did a great job of tackling on some of those things, but they were able to hit us, in the middle of the field on our zone defense, and I thought it was kind of like, okay, we could execute that a little bit better, and hopefully we can kind of continue to get better at that on some of our zone looks. Another thing that I noticed is, people may be wondering, why didn't we use our blitz package as much as we did? When we did do it, And we did do it some in the first half. I've seen some people say, well, we only really did it in the fourth quarter. That's not true. We blitzed a few times in the first half with that amoeba defense look. They just did a fantastic job of having a million different ways to beat it. And they've seen it. I mean, Brian obviously used to work there. That's a defense that Bill runs. They know how to beat it. And I think that's why Brian didn't want to run it as much. Because they are they know that defense so well. And that kind of showed in this game where every time we did kind of try to give that blitz look, that blitz package, it was a problem for us where they were able to kind of get. And the good thing about our defense is we did a great job of tackling. Even where they were able to get the ball out quick, we were able to kind of minimize the yards. So I think those are some of the observations that I made. Our zone defense, not so great. The Patriots did a great job of game planning for our amoeba defense. But for the most part, our defense was fantastic. It was fantastic. I think the zone, some of the zone things that I did say are little gripes. I don't think that's too big of a deal. And again, if you look at the run numbers for the Patriots, he got exactly 100 yards on 23 carries. So, I mean, and like I said, especially against such a great running attack that the Patriots do have, I do like that our defense was able to stop it when we needed to. And I thought John Jenkins looked pretty good. And he's a welcome addition to help us stop the run. But this defense is going to be one of the best in the league all year. It's not going to fall out of the top 5. It's one of the best in the NFL. It's not just a great defense, but they can also turn the ball over. And again, the thing that popped out to me the most is how we were able to get consistent pressure with 4 against one of the best offensive lines in the league. And that's going to be dangerous, bro. If we can do that on a consistent basis, that's going to be a problem for a lot of teams. And not everybody is as good at game planning as the Patriots. So we're going to be able to run some of those blitz packages more. And our defense, who only allowed 16 points to this Patriots team, is going to be fantastic for the rest of the year. We just have to do better on some of the zone stuff, in my opinion. It's like, the shot down to Nelson Aguilar in the middle of the field, some of that stuff is like we got to clean up. That was just a little bit too easy. And defensively, Javon Holland, I thought, played well in terms of individual. He looked good for his first game. He made a few nice tackles there. Byron looked better than he did a year ago. That's something that stood off to me. And again, I think Jalen Phillips, his preseason was a little kind of, I would say so-so. And seeing him in this game get a couple pressures and he just looked better. And another guy that I really surprised me was Ben Scarlett. I thought he had a fantastic game. He did really nice in the run game for us. He had a couple of nice deflections. Zach Sealer looked good. So there was a lot to like on the defensive side of the football. And I think they're going to continue to be dominant for the rest of the year. And the thing that not only was this a big win, but I think the offense is going to be a good unit on its own this year. And I think that's why our team's going to be really, 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 really good. And, Mac Jones, and like I said, they did a good job of kind of having answers to a lot of our defenses. And that's just kind of how New England is. They have a really good coaching staff. And for a game that was so low scoring, both quarterbacks passed a lot in this game. Jones had 39 attempts. Tua had 27. They both pretty much had the same. Mac had 281. Tua had 202. I think Mac had 1 touchdown. Tua had 2 touchdowns, obviously, with the run in the pass. Excuse me. Tua, it was kind of a weird game in that way. But yeah, Mac should have been sacked a lot more in this game. He did a good job of getting rid of the ball when there was pressure in his face, especially for a younger quarterback. Because like I said, the thing that really stood out to me was we did get pressure with our front 4 against a good offensive line. So yeah, that was it. Really, in terms of surface level observations of this game, those are the things that I noticed. I'm so excited to watch the rest of the year. This team is really good. I thought Ahmed looked good. I love the way we utilized some of the screen game, the RPO game. I thought it was a lot more creative than a year ago. and obviously Tua taking down the field shots, which is what you have to do against this team. And I love that we were able to take advantage for the most part, all of it. And Waddle looked fantastic. I cannot wait to see this offense more. I think it's going to just get better, and I think like I said, I think it will be a good unit on its own this year. The defense will continue to be dominant and one of the better ones in the league. And maybe we can finish number 1 in the league this year. And we'll see where that goes. If Phillips can turn into the player that we think he can his rookie year, there's no doubt in my mind that they will. And if they can continue to get pressure with their front four, I mean, it's basically a wrap. And one thing I will mention again, just to say it again, is Byron Jones does look better. I think he looked a lot better out there than he did last year. Yeah, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on to the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. I can't, guys. I honestly, I'm on cloud 9. I was in disbelief. I don't want to say disbelief. I think that's a little bit too hard because I really did think we could win this game. And one thing I will say before we move on to the fan Q&A that I noticed is how in the world the national media, who basically acted like we were playing, we were an unranked team playing Alabama all week. We go to Gillette Stadium and get a win where nobody thought we could, and we're barely talked about. I just think that's weird. It's so weird, dude. It is so weird, but it is what it is. I don't really care. I just think it's interesting that we didn't get as much love as I think we deserved, because it's one of the hardest wins that anybody got on Sunday. That's for sure. This first question comes from KC Fanatic. Move this a little bit closer. He says, "Great win, great podcast. I look forward to hearing your answers each week. Do you think our defense will be all right on stopping the run?" Yes, that was one of the best offensive lines in the best run game. Dude, one of the biggest offensive lines. And one of the better deep running back cores. And the only one that had a good game was Damian Harris. Everyone else, and he even had, obviously, the fumbles that he had. Everyone else pretty much was below average in this game. Damian got the bulk of the carries. But, yeah, I think, like I said, I think we did a good job of stopping it when we needed to. And I think against other teams it will be even better because they're not as good as the Patriots at running the ball. Let's move on to Richard. That was a good question. Thank you, Casey, for saying you like the podcast. This next question comes from Richard. He says the Dolphins should open up the playbook when Will Fuller gets back. I worried in the fourth quarter the refs would start throwing flags in the Patriots' favor to help them win. They are ESPN and the NFL Network's media darling. I think they had more penalty yards than we did. And it didn't seem like that sometimes, but I think that is true. Which is interesting to think about. Because I was yelling at the TV, too. I was like, what the heck is going on? Can we not get a call? And then you look at the numbers, it's like, yeah, we got a few calls. But, what was I trying to say? What was the question? Oh, the media darling thing. That's definitely a thing, for sure. For sure. But, yeah, I think the playbook, we went down the field a few times in this game. I think you're going to see more better offense because they're not playing the New England Patriots defense next week for sure. The Bills defense is nowhere near as good as the Patriots defense. So yeah, the offense is going to be a lot better. Just because of that. But this next question comes from Jack Pack. He says, watched the highlights, seemed like the defense was getting exposed in the passing game. You think it was miscommunication or were they selling out to stop the run? No, I mean, if you watch the game, I just think they had a lot of, they kind of built in a lot of easy, some of the throws that Mac Jones made were not easy, especially in that second half. But for the most part, a lot of it was dinking and dunking. We never gave up too many big plays, and the big plays that we did give up were very difficult to make, and we never made it easy on New England's offense. But I wouldn't say it was it was an odd game. And we just played great red zone defense. I thought the defense played great overall. We got them in a lot of third downs, and usually we're pretty good at getting off the field in those situations. But I don't know. I just thought, honestly, Mac Jones just made a lot of good plays. Is the best way I can describe it. A lot of those third downs, he had a lot of pressure in his face. He made some nice throws, especially in that second half. But for the most part, it was a lot of dinking and dunking. I wouldn't say we got exposed or anything in the secondary. And most of those things were in zone coverage, not in man defense. I wish we would have played a little bit more man and just rushed four in this game. I think we would have had a little bit more success. I don't know why Brian didn't do that. Maybe he thought that they would have some nice, pick plays and stuff of that nature. I don't know. But we definitely played more zone than we ever have in the Brian Flores era in this game, that's for sure. This next question comes from Beef. Well, hold on. Before we move on, I want to make sure I answered Jack Peck's question right. He says, do you think it was miscommunication or were they selling out to stop the run? I don't think it was miscommunication or anything. First of all, we only gave up 16 points. So what are we actually talking about here? I don't really know. And, if it wasn't for a questionable low hit on the quarterback, they probably wouldn't have scored a touchdown at all. So I don't know. It's hard to criticize the defense when they play. They did a fantastic job. Is basically what I'm saying. So I would kind of disagree with what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but I disagree. This next question comes from Beef. He says, "Hey Skaggs, many fans expected for the Dolphins to go into the wild card spot this season. The Dolphins are already number 1 in the AFC East. Is it too early to tell? But do you think we have a good chance of winning the AFC East?" I mean, winning the AFC East is a different question altogether. Beating New England in Gillette is a huge step to accomplishing that. But obviously, Buffalo is still there. They lost to Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's a good team. And we obviously have a big game in Miami to kind of prove that. So I would say, it's a long season. But this is definitely a playoff team for sure. This next question comes from SM. He says, thoughts on bringing Jacoby in to run the ball on short yardage. Is that fair to him? Thank you for bringing this up, SM. Very odd thing that happened in the second half. I'm not really sure what the heck was going on. They should have just used a timeout. I think Brian wanted to save a timeout, so he was like, Jacoby's good enough to just kind of, maybe throw one ball in there. The only reason that happened, obviously, is because it was a 2-minute situation. They snuck it to get the first down. They didn't want to burn a timeout, so they just kept Jacoby out there. I think they should have just used the timeout. I actually agree with the way that they drained the clock, but they should have used the timeout. There's no way. I thought it was kind of mishandled by Jacoby. I actually do agree with draining the clock, though, in that situation. So yeah, it was a weird sequence though, but I think it's a pretty good idea and we saw that around the league on Sunday where a couple other teams did the same thing. Even the Chiefs did it. They brought a tight end in to do it for them. This next question comes from Beef. He says, "Yo Skaggs, how about them Dolphins? How about them Dolphins? It wasn't a pretty win, but I definitely take it, especially when in Foxborough. Did Tua's performance make you concerned at all on how he should have done better and we should have won by more? That as well as did you think some of the defensive plays didn't make sense? Too much zone coverage and not enough pressure." Yeah, no, I think we got pressure I think we definitely got pressure. Zone coverage was an interesting. I don't know why we played so much zone coverage in this game. I really don't, but it kind of worked. Like it's weird to say, but it did work. I think we could have done even better if we played man and rush 4. In some of those plays that Mac got time on, we only rushed 3. But pressure was not a problem in this game. We pressured Mac quite a few times in this game. Am I concerned about Tua's Beef's other question? No, I thought Tua played pretty good. It's one of the best defenses in the league he was playing, so I don't think Tua played bad at all. This next question comes from Jack Pack 18. He says, "What did you think of the run game? I'm not a fan of the pass sets of the run." I am. I definitely am, especially if you're good at the pass. If you're better at the pass than the run, then the pass will set up the run. So in the way we use the run game, most of the time it was off RPOs, and it worked when we needed it to, especially. So I kind of disagree. What did I think of the run game? We didn't run it that much. We as a unit, like I said, even Jacoby Brissett carried it just as many times as Achman did. So we didn't run it that much. But when we needed to, we were able to, obviously close it out. And even in the red zone, I thought we did a pretty good job running the football. This next question comes from TR3MC. He says, "Hey Skaggs, to me it looked like our defense has been totally changed and our players aren't being utilized as they were last year from maximum pressure." It definitely wasn't totally changed. It was just a different game plan. And honestly, it worked. I mean, obviously, who knows what would have happened if we didn't force the fumble, but for the rest of the game, we were playing good red zone defense the entire game. And that in the game that's Harris or Stevenson, I can't remember who was carrying the ball at the time. Right now, it was who knows what would have happened after that. Who maybe Tua would have had a game-winning drive. Who knows? So it was a more unique game plan than we've seen here since Brian's been here. But it worked. It worked. And I think the pressure thing, we were able to get pressure. I think that's something that people are missing is we did get pressure. It just Mac did a good job of getting rid of the football. This next question comes from Beef. He says, "Hey guys, I know this is a Dolphins channel, but were there games in week 1 you didn't expect the way that they would turn out? Buffalo losing to the Steelers, Texans beating Jacksonville, Darnold's revenge game against the Jets, Arizona outlasting the Titans." I think the biggest one that surprised me was the Arizona game. That was probably the biggest one. The Houston-Jacksonville game, those are both terrible teams. Who really cares? But the Jets and the Panthers should have beat the Jets easily. So that didn't surprise me. So yeah, I think the thing that surprised me the most was definitely probably the Packers and Cardinals games. Those were the ones that surprised me the most. This next question comes from Curtis. He says, "Did we play better than the Pats overall? The body language of the team seemed like we were not as good as the Patriots. Do you think we will get the dub on our next meeting?" I disagree with that. I thought our body language was... you can tell this team is close from the press conferences, from the body language on the field. I loved our sideline this entire game. I thought they just bring a good energy. It was just a close... Everybody was locked in. I think that's... I thought we had... I don't know. I kind of disagree with that. But both teams were definitely locked in. Did we play better? Yes. We didn't turn the ball over as much, and we played better red zone defense. And again, if it wasn't for a low hit call, which was kind of questionable, which was a fantastic play by Elandon Roberts, they wouldn't have scored a touchdown. Or they would have scored... How many touchdowns did they have in this game? I guess they have 2? I'm getting confused right now thinking about it, but Mac Jones definitely wouldn't have had a touchdown in this game if it wasn't for that. And, it was kind of... I don't know. I thought the defense played fantastic. It is odd the more I think about it, and even during the game, how much zone coverage... Because even the touchdown that we gave up was in zone coverage. Very weird. Very weird that it's just not normal for us to play as much zone as we did. I don't know why we did it. It did work, though. And we did a great job tackling in this game. Do you think... Yes, I think it'd be a lot easier to get the win in the next meeting. Historically, New England has a tougher time going to Miami and winning. And it's obviously at home, so it definitely would be an easier game to win. This next question comes from Ethan. He says, "Hey Skaggs, why do you think we were missing our chaotic blitz packages against the Patriots? I expect to see a lot of our guys up and moving around, and it seems like we were just using more conventional pressure schemes." The thing about this is that we were able to... Okay, there's 2 major things to this. Number 1, it was actually working. Our front 4 was getting pressure. Number two, I think he didn't want to do it as much because they know that defense. They've run it themselves, so they know how to beat it. And Brian, when he was there, ran it in practice a lot, so they know how to beat that. And even when we ran it against them, they did good. They had a lot of nice designs to beat it. And most of it was dinking and dunking and screens and flat routes and getting the tight end on a few screens. But they did a good job of answering a lot of our blitz packages. So that's why we did. It has nothing to do with the personnel that we have or anything like that. It was a game plan thing, and I think it was smart. I think we should have definitely rushed for and played more man coverage on third down than we did. I think we would have gotten off the field a couple more times, but yeah. I think that's why you didn't see that maybe defense as many times, is because, number one, they've seen it so many times in New England. They know how to beat it. And number two, we were able to get pressure with our front four. And again, Mac just did a good job of finding people down the field when he had pressure and moving in the pocket. This next question comes from Beef. He says, "Hey Skaggs, if you saw the game, what did you think of the roughing the passer call on Elaine Roberts? Many fans were furious about how the call was made, and if you think about it, it helped Mac Jones get his first NFL touchdown." Yeah, it was kind of a weak call. I don't want to say it was more of just a trip. It wasn't a vicious hit to the lower extremities of the quarterback, is the way I would explain that. And especially if you watch in real time, it's like, that was such a weak call. So I definitely agree, and it was such a good play by Landon Roberts. He blows up the running back on a blitz, and then finishes the sack. So it sucks that it was called. Yeah, and it did lead to a touchdown, unfortunately, and that would have gotten us off the field, and they would have had to settle for 3. But yeah, I thought it was a weak call. And again, just thinking about the game as I'm talking about it, I think we're not crediting the defense enough. I mean, they only gave up 16 points, and that's really all you can ask for. And they played fantastic red zone defense. This next question comes from Slug. He says, "Hey Skaggs, love the show. Thank you." He says, "I can't start my week without it for the last 4 years. Did you notice a big difference between Mac and Tua?" Okay, so you're saying you can't start the show or the week without the show. I really, really appreciate it. Did I notice a big difference? No. I think if you put Tua in the same situations that Mac had, he would have made even more plays, because I think Tua is he's better at moving in the pocket. He's just more athletic. But most of the throws, Mac did do a good job of getting written. I'm giving him credit. He made a fantastic throw to James White in this game, but the throws that he did make under pressure were either flat routes or the guy was open, and they found a hole in the zone, or something like that. But Tua dealt with a lot more man-to-man tight coverage than Mac did, and that's a weird thing about maybe Brian thought he could confuse Mac more with zone and make the game a little bit more complicated, because man is a lot more simple to read, obviously, but I think the best thing our defense does is play man coverage. So I'm not really sure why he did what he did. It worked at the end of the day. But yeah, what was the question is comparing Tua and Mac, and I'll stand by this. I would rather have Tua than Mac. This question comes from Kevin. He says, "How good does it feel to be alone in first place in our division?" I mean, I wouldn't say that's something I would bring up. But it does feel fantastic to win in New England, for sure. This next question comes from SM. He says, more of a problem, our run game or our run defense? I don't think either one of those things will be a problem. I think, again, you kind of have to take it into context, put everything in context. It's not like you're running against air, okay? You're running against a good defense, and you're playing run defense against a good defense. It's not like this offense was bad, or this run defense was bad. This is Bill Belichick. This is New England. I think you have to put things in context. But I think the makings were there, and things that we've seen in the offseason so far, and even in this game, I think all point in the right direction for those things to be better as the year goes on. This next question comes from Mark. He says, "Is it me or were the refs trying to give New England the game? In my opinion, they didn't necessarily play great, but they weren't bad either. I feel the refs kept it close because we didn't get the fair amount of calls that they did. What are your thoughts?" I don't know. I feel it was a weird. I thought a lot of. I don't know. I definitely would agree that the refs should not have been as involved as they were. But I think it was pretty much even with the penalty yards, if I'm wrong. I think they had more than we did. Someone's going to have to check that. I could be wrong about that. So I would kind of disagree with the whole refs being on. It kind of seemed like that at times. I will say that. There was a few pass interference. I mean, the one on Devontae Parker, I thought on third down was pretty bad. There were a few calls that I would have liked to have had, and the one that I definitely would have liked to have been picked up was the one on Landon Roberts for sure. A great example of this, and now that you bring this up, there was a sack on Tua, or a hit on Tua, I should say. That was the same one that Landon put on Mac, and he got called for it, but they didn't. I can't remember who exactly did it, but it was the same type of hit, literally. I can't remember the exact New England player that did it, but it was very similar, and they didn't call it. So it is weird. This next question comes from SM. He says, "Terrible referees, all in the favor of New England keeping Dolphins on both sides of the ball. Should have beaten them by at least 14 thoughts." Again, the whole ref thing, there were definitely some bad calls, for sure. I would agree with that. So, definitely, Elena Roberts was the biggest call of the game. That extended a drive, which led to a touchdown. And, again, that was a sack in the red zone on third down. It's a tough call to kind of to swallow, for sure. But for the most part, I didn't feel like there was any other bad calls. There was a hold on Liam that he absolutely did. I think, yeah, I definitely think there's a few times that, like I said, that they could have been, I'm talking about the same thing again, but you guys have already heard my thoughts on the whole ref thing anyway. But, yeah, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I would say you guys have to put things in context. This is a very good New England team. This is in Gillette Stadium. This is Bill Belichick. Things aren't going to go, cupcakes and rainbows. It was going to be a tough game. And that's exactly what happened for two really good teams playing each other. And it was a fantastic road victory. I couldn't ask for more personally. I know it wasn't the prettiest win, but it was a win. I thought the defense looked fantastic. I think the offense showed signs of what they can be. And I think they will be that. And again, you have to put things in context. This is a great New England defense. I thought Tua played well. I think our front four, which was a kind of a weakness last year for us, which is rushing four. That's why Buffalo had a lot of success against us. I thought that looked way better this year than a year ago. If you guys go back and watch it, we got pressure. I promise you. We just didn't play great zone coverage. I think that's the reason you kind of see. Mac Jones only had 2 down the field throws. He had one to Nelson Aguilar in between the zone coverage, in between the linebacker and the safety. And then he had the wheel route, which was against man coverage, to James White. That was it. And those weren't huge plays. They weren't 80-yard bombs or anything like that. They were 20, 30-yard gains. But other than that, it was pretty much dinking and dunking the entire game. And that's what you do against zone coverage. So it's weird. It wasn't like we played awful zone. It was just, that's how, some of the things I think we could do better with and executing those coverages. But that's kind of how you beat zone coverage, is dinking and dunking. So I don't know. It's just odd that we played so much zone. I think that was the weirdest part of the game. But other than that, it was a fantastic win. Like I said, I'm over the moon. I'm on cloud 9. To go up to Gillette and win is so hard. And I'm just really, really proud of our team and excited to continue to watch this team, because I think we're going to have a great year. A great year. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you guys thought about the game. Let me know what you guys thought about Tua down in the comment section below. I think the only thing that was weird about Tua's game, this game, was some of the outside the numbers throwing, wasn't perfect. But other than that, I thought that he played great. And again, this was a great victory for the organization and obviously the fan base to go up to Gillette and get a win. One of the out of all the games this year that we were going to play, this is in the top 5 games, definitely in the top 2 that I would have wanted to win for sure. This and Buffalo, those were the games that I would want to win the most. And like I said, I'm on cloud 9 that we were able to get this victory. I'd be a little bit more demonstrative and be. But some people are sleeping right now, so I don't want to be too loud. But how about them Dolphins? Great victory. And I can't wait. Like I said, I just can't wait to see the growth with the team because I think the defense is only going to be better, which is scary this year. And I think the offense is going to be a good unit this year for sure. So, and I like the scheme that we ran too. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. And I will see you guys. I'm Sky83, and I'll see you guys in the next one.